where it goes. Is it there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we can see.
Good afternoon, or shall I say good evening, everyone. It's been quite a wonderful session till this time. I thank ISA Nagpur City branch, Saurabh sir, Tina madam, Deepak sir for giving me this opportunity, and I am thankful to Sanjay sir and Dr. Giri because the COVID part and lot of other technical aspects they have covered. And yesterday, Dr. Saurabh told me that I have to finish it in 20 minutes. So I thought whether it will be possible, but now I think I believe it is possible because most of the parts I need not touch actually. So the topic I have been given is brachial plexus block below the clavicle. So of late, there are a lot of headaches during this lockdown period. At staying at home, and one of them is webinar. Basically, some society or the other is conducting webinar, and I am really thankful to ISA Nagpur because they are. It's not a dedicated COVID webinar per se. It is on regional anesthesia, and I hope there won't be any edit, whether it is a cross or a green. Let us see at the end of the session. So all the societies are discussing, making protocols, doing webinars on COVID and their specialty per se, and the anesthesiologist and the intensive care team, they are not far behind because they are with the ER team, they are the forefront in managing COVID cases. So in this presentation, I will cover infraclavicular approach to brachial plexus block, axillary fossa block. What I will not cover is retroclavicular approach, as Dr. Sanjay said. It is kind of overlap between above clavicle and below clavicle block, and the recently described costoclavicular approach. I am just sticking to the usual stuff that I do, and that most of the clinicians as such practice. So I will start my presentation with axillary plexus block because the infraclavicular is a bit lengthy, so I want to spend some time over there. So coming to axillary plexus block, here we deal with the terminal nerve, basically radial, ulnar, medial, and musculocutaneous nerves. It is
Abhijit.
Yeah.
Saurabh here. Abhijit.
Bolo.
Presentation on karna pura. Yeah, click that.
Oh, right. Okay, I'm sorry about that. It is easy to perform. There are less complications, as a list of complications was discussed by the previous speakers: phrenic nerve palsy, vertebral artery injection, hoarseness, and whatnot. So below clavicle, there are a lot of advantages. With axillary, the structures are quite superficial, and there are certain issues with this. For example, putting a tourniquet. If the surgeon wants to use a tourniquet, maybe that is something which might not be covered with an axillary brachial plexus block. And initially, during my PG days, and many of them, I think I'm sure most of you must have got confused that axillary block, it must be blocking the axillary nerve, but no, it's not like that. Axillary nerve leaves actually at the level of coracoid process, musculocutaneous and axillary nerve. They actually leave the common facial sheath and they divert from there. And axillary nerve block is as such used for shoulder surgeries and scapular surgeries as such, not for forearm or hand or wrist surgeries for which axillary plexus block is indicated. Dr. Surajit already showed intercostal brachial nerve is the lateral putaneous branch of second intercostal nerve. So it can be reliably blocked by this skin infiltration, basically by 1% lidocaine, something like that. As you can see in the dissected part, it reliably covers the intercostal brachial nerve, and it will take care of the tourniquet discomfort that the patient faces. Indications are surgery, any surgery of elbow, forearm, hand, etc. I mean, I don't want to go into the list per se. So anything involving elbow, forearm, or hand. So I will discuss with pertinent sonoanatomy related to axillary brachial plexus block. The structures are quite superficial, so a depth of around 4 centimeters is enough even for a patient who is around 90 to 100 kgs. You will find one artery, axillary artery, couple of anomalous arteries at times, but veins will be more in number, not one. And slightly more pressure in the part where you have to put the probe will actually make the veins disappear. So the pressure has to be gentle because that is important when you are doing the needling discipline, because that area is rich of full of vessels basically. So the 4 important nerves that we deal with axillary blocks are median, ulnar, radial, musculocutaneous. Medial is more superficial and lateral. Ulnar is a bit medial. Radial is actually posterior. Musculocutaneous, we need a separate injection. I mean, the needle has to be either redirected or reinserted for covering in the musculocutaneous. And there are three group of muscles of interest: biceps muscle, thoracobrachialis muscle. Musculocutaneous now tends to be in the sandwiched in between the biceps brachialis and thoracobrachialis, and the conjoint tendon, which is visible on the medial aspect, which comprises of teres major and latissimus muscle. So that's the. I will just touch on the nerves basically. Musculocutaneous nerve, we all know it is a terminal branch of lateral cord. What many books describe and what many times we also observe is that it is one of the most brightest nerve visible on ultrasound. As you can see over here, it is sandwiched between biceps and thoracobrachialis. In this particular situation, there's an out of plane injection going on over here. Coming to medial now, it has components from lateral and medial cord. Ulnar nerve, it is a terminal branch of medial cord, and radial nerve is a terminal branch of posterior cord. So these are the nerves of interest with their root values. So for USG of axillary block, you need a linear array high frequency probe 6 to 6 megahertz. At our institute, we use sinusoid counter. A depth of around 4 centimeter usually suffices. Here we are actually quite away from the forearm, pneumothorax, and all these things. All these issues are gone above. Ergonomics, basically the patient position is usually the performer is facing the head end, so the ultrasound machine can comfortably be kept on the same side of the surgery, and the patient's head need to be turned on the opposite side. So even if the patient is having nasal prongs and all, and the patient's face is covered, it can easily be protected with aerosol and all those things. If you have a nerve mode in your machine, you can use a nerve mode. It's better to abduct the arm by 90 degree and elbow at around 90 degree, but hyper abduction and all is not advisable. So on the left side, figure A, what you can see, a probe is kept and there is a cross section showing axillary artery and cut through axillary and two veins, over which on the medial aspect you see the ulnar nerve over here, and you can see the musculocutaneous nerve sandwiched over here, radial nerve on the posterior aspect, the conjoint tendon of over here, and the median nerve somewhere here superiorly. So that's how it's quite a straightforward block, as the Giri has also mentioned. You have to just see the artery over here. There he palpates the artery and see the features. See the artery, and by frequent aspiration, so that is the probe placement has to be where the pectoralis major inserts and the biceps brachii starts. If you have to keep the probe in this particular position, as you can see on the left hand side, and the structures you can see, all the nerves, vessels, and are all in a common facial sheath, except the musculocutaneous, which is, as described earlier, is a bit separate. So actually, I mean, I'm really sorry I couldn't use any of my videos. I told Saurabh sir yesterday also. It has been removed from our gallery. I didn't go to the hospital for 10 days, but I'll try to show over here just pertinent things that can be done with the brachial plexus block, axillary brachial plexus block. The scanning procedure I have told, the probe placement I have mentioned. Is it playing? There it is. So you can see first the idea is to do a scout scan, because there will be a lot of, at times you will find aberrant vessels, and also you can plan your block and you know where your nerve lies. You can see this common facial sheath, pulsating artery transmitted pulsations to the vein, and the nerve comes and the needle comes from here. There are a couple of approaches. I will discuss that in the subsequent slide. Some people, they go by single injection, they keep injecting and see the spread of local anesthetic around all the three nerves. Some people, they recommend going under the artery, injecting around the radial nerve first, and coming up going all the artery. So there are, like, actually there is no standard way of doing. Every patient has a different anatomy, different aberrations, different placement of relationship with the vascular structure. So based on that, we have to plan all this. Like you can see over here now, first injection was given here, then the second injection is given here. Drug has totally surrounded here, and there goes the musculocutaneous nerve. We use 15 ml of local anesthetic for the three nerves in the axillary sheath, and 5 ml for musculocutaneous nerve in my practice. So there it goes, the same thing basically now in our picture here. The needle approaches one above, one lower down the axillary artery, above the axillary artery, the local anesthetic spread, in view, and the musculocutaneous injection. So these are the aberrations like vascular anomalies and all that I was talking about, nerve locations basically. As you can see over here, the radial nerve is here, the median nerve is here, median nerve is here, radial is here. All, I mean, you have to, there's no fixed way of doing it. If everything is comfortable, say like for example here, you can just get the needle here, inject the drug and see the drug spreading over here, and one injection might be enough. But maybe not in this case. In this case, you have to inject here, maybe then go above here, and this particular thing might get spared if you go for a single injection. So every axillary block has to be individualized. You have to plan it based on the sonological structures that you see. These are the approaches that I was talking about. Posterior first, followed by superior for median and ulnar. Single injection, which is called as a perivascular injection, at around 6 o'clock position, and see the spread. These separate injections. These separate injections like 5 ml to median, 5 to ulnar, 5 to radial, and then 5 to musculocutaneous. But at times, many people they recommend neurostimulation and all. If you have it, if you are used to, yes, definitely it's a boon. But in presence of ultrasound, it may or may not be required. Maybe it's up to your personal choice. Important points for axillary artery, axillary plexus block is frequent aspiration. As I had shown, there are a lot of vessels, one artery, couple of veins and all, and the vein gets compressed. So there are higher chances of intravascular injection. If you are injecting and you are not able to see the drug, it's time to monitor the patient, see his rhythm, because possibly the drug is intravascular. And I suggest, rather, it is suggested everywhere that a South scan is mandatory to identify aberrant vessels and anatomical vasculature. In 2012, I came to know about this last with an axillary brachial plexus block. But there's something called as lipid rescue ORG, where I reviewed for last 16 months. So there were a lot of last with brachial plexus block. Two were with axillary, one was with supra clavicular, one was with interscalene. Even one of the costoclavicular blocks had a local documented local anesthesia system. So you have to be careful. You don't have a phrenic, you don't have a pleura, but you have vessels. So coming to infraclavicular block, there were a lot of issues earlier, like regarding it has like come out. It was described well, then it went into discontinued because of pneumothorax and all. Later on, it came back. There are a lot of approaches: vertical approach, approach, plastered approach. I mean, the list is quite big. But with ultrasound, you can just see the cords and perform your blocks and get good injection. As I saw in Dr. Sanjay's slide, he has mentioned that supraclavicular approach is the spinal anesthesia of upper extremity. But maybe I would disagree that, because he himself mentioned that CFU and the ulnar usually gets spared. But with an infraclavicular block, you rarely get any kind of sparing. I would say like infraclavicular block is the spinal anesthesia instead of supraclavicular. So ICB blocks the cord. You can have the patient's arm in the neutral position, but it is suggested that you flex the arm by 90 degrees, or it can be kept on the abdomen. Even that is fine. It blocks except shoulder and a little part of upper arm. It blocks the entire upper arm. Bilateral blocks can be performed. They are catheters can be placed comfortably, not in this era, but otherwise. And tourniquet is reasonably well tolerated. The only problem with this is it does not anesthetize the skin of axilla, but I think the indications that I have mentioned, you rarely need anything to anesthetize the skin of axilla. But that part is again covered by intercostal curriculum. You can do a subcutaneous injection and cover that also with that. As I was telling earlier, axillary nerve, musculocutaneous nerve leaves the common tissue sheet at or before the thoracoid process. So here, basically, you don't need a separate musculocutaneous injection. I mean, the lateral aspect of the foramen will be very nicely covered with this. And these are the indications. This is where we perform the injections at the level of cord. Now, from here comes the, you can see here the schematic diagram showing the location of the cord. This is the thoracoid process. Like thoracoid process is a very important landmark when you are performing stimulator guided or a landmark guided interscalene block. So this is very important in that aspect. So this is a cross section again showing the presence of the cord. As you can see over here, axillary artery, vein, and the location of the cord. Medial cord. It is like in relation to the axillary artery. Medial cord is medial. Posterior cord is over here, and lateral cord is placed on the lateral. So again, I was talking about the interesting part. So here comes the interesting part. Basically. So recently, it has been like the intraclavicular, the cord pores below the clavicle has been divided into three parts: proximal, distal, and very distal. So the proximal part is the part at the midpoint of the clavicle. So if you see this diagram carefully, if you see it over here, this is the artery which usually is on the medial side of the vein, on the lateral aspect, and vein is on the medial aspect. And if you see over here, this is the relationship of the cord at the point that I was talking at the midpoint of the clavicle. But if you go 1.5 centimeters lateral, so the cord it will come. Are you able to see this diagram over here? I'm sorry for that. So it will be posterior. You can see the cord, lateral, posterior cord, and medial cord is like posterior. And if you move another 1 centimeter lateral, the position changes. It is like situated at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So identification of cord, basically you may or may not see, and the location of the cords vary where you keep the cord. So idea is the idea of this description is basically to use all the three locations and identify where you can see, visualize all the three cords properly, and then perform your intraclavicular cord comfortably. So this is the probe placement that I was talking about at the midpoint of the clavicle, and this is the location over here, just lateral. Over here, lateral cord and posterior and medial cord. You go another 1.5 centimeter, and that's how it is. Lateral cord and posterior cord, medial cord is just behind. And I'm sorry, did I skip one? Okay. This is the first one, and this is the second. Again, one more thing that I wanted to highlight is the presence of two compartments. Basically, lateral cord has its own compartment, and posterior and middle cord are situated in a single compartment. This has been recently described and demonstrated in cadaver session. So in our practice, also a couple of times we have used this, and the results were really good in the sense there were no sparing. The block was quite fast as such. So the idea is initially to give injection from down. Penetrate this compartment, inject local anesthetic here, followed by injection around the lateral cord. So this particular, anybody who is interested in advanced regional anesthesia technique and who has been following updates in regional anesthesia very well must be knowing Dr. KG Srinivas at Toronto Western Hospital, Canada, and there's a very good 20 minutes video on YouTube from which I have managed to take these images, and I have seen that video several times before performing this block, and it's very informative and very nicely described. I request you to go through it. I also am fortunate enough to share authorship in one of the papers. This is an upcoming paper that you can see Dr. KG's name also. So coming to one of the videos which I will be showing here. I'm sorry for that. I had to download a video and show you, but unfortunately, I had nothing to show in my gallery as of now. I'm very sorry for that. You can see the probe placement basically just beneath the clavicle. You need to keep some space 1 centimeter to pass your needle over here. 1 second. There it is. So you can see the axillary artery over here. Yeah. So, and these are the cords surrounding the axillary artery over here. You can see the possibly this is the posterior and the medial cord and the lateral cord somewhere over here. So subsequently you will see the injection being performed, and that there goes the needle. You need to have some space 1 centimeter proximal to the probe placement, and your area of interest will be slightly on the other aspect of the screen, so that you can perform 2 injections in one go. There it is. The posterior and the medial cord being injected, followed by the lateral cord somewhere over here. Right. So again, keeping an eye, Dr. Sanjay already mentioned, keeping the needle in vision is very important because we are playing very close to very important the axillary artery, the big artery, and even 4-5 ml of local anesthetic intended for our cord could be catastrophic. So you have to be very careful. Anytime you are not seeing the needle, adjust your probe, optimize your image, use proper measures, and then we inject. can be really dangerous. It's not a regular fissure vein block. It's very vascular block. Really careful. Yeah. There it goes. Coming to vascularity, this area, like again, one of the reasons for disrepute was there were so many incidences of local anesthetic. See the number of vessels around the axillary artery branching off into the axillary artery in this particular position. Superior thoracic artery, thoracoabdominal, lateral thoracic, subscapular artery, posterior circumferential artery. I mean, it's none. We should not like discuss what arteries are coming, but using a Doppler and visualizing the artery and your needle trajectory should be directed in such a way that you don't encounter that you don't want. Even if there is an injury, if you identify it, it's fine. But anything going intravascular can be very dangerous. So this is one of our unpublished work. This is me and Dr. Yuan are working on it. So we have a data of around 2,000 patients, over 650 patients had abnormal vasculature. We will come out with this maybe by the end of this year. But even our work is like correlating with not of the papers published, but only the difference for a change from the Indian data is that the volume is more. So this is a cadaveric dissection. Basically, you can see the axillary artery over here, and so many branches and all. I mean, it's beyond the scope of this presentation and beyond the scope of my knowledge to identify which artery. So the other issues which are usually described with intraclavicular block is pneumothorax, but I think if you see over here, if you identify the artery and see the needle, the pleura and the lung are quite far away. There's no way that you can damage unless you have a very hefty patient. For which, in such situation, when the linear array high frequency probe is not able to give you a proper imaging, you could actually use a curvilinear probe also. But again, that depends on your practice and your expertise on that. Nerve injury, again, you have to be used, you have to be careful, not more than 15 psi of injected pressure you should be using because you are injecting around the cord, it should not cause any damage. Yes, local anesthesia, systemic toxicity, vascular punctures are a problem in that particular area, but the use of ultrasonography and frequent needle aspiration before injecting can actually solve that problem. So this is what I was talking about. Lipid Rescue ORG is a site where if you, in your practice also, you encounter any suspected blast, you could report it over here with the details of this and they will publish it online. These are the two papers that I have that were published in recent past, but in last 1.5 years, as I was telling, related to brachial plexus block, including all axillary, intraclavicular, interscalene, everything. Even there were serious last events. So coming to certain rescue blocks with ultrasonography. I mean, I heard Sanjay mentioning that what Dr. Gini it was actually that supraclavicular block with 10 mm. Again, I mean, when you are planning to do everything distal, why do you want to work in you can just identify where the problem is and this and that. You can cover the block, cover the nerve which is required. Coming to this is a, you can see the radial nerve over here. Keep the probe transfers the hand little next over here. Identify the radial nerve in between biceps and triceps. Just about the humerus. 5 mm local anesthetic suffices. This is the median nerve. This is one of the easiest block. Keep it in the cubital fossa. Identify the brachial artery. Just medial to brachial artery. Try to inject somewhere where it is not very much close to the brachial artery. And similarly for the ulnar artery, try scanning it from the lower down and come up because it will be very closely associated with ulnar nerve and artery are very close. At a point somewhere when you try to go up to the forearm, they will separate at some point over here. At that point, you can inject Thank you very much for the time. I hope, Dr. Saurabh, I managed in 20 minutes. Thank you for the time.
Yeah. No issue of time, sir. All our participants are very patient. Thank you, Dr. Abhijit.